Welcome back, everyone. This is February 10th, and this is our Wyckoff Crypto Trading Lab market update on this day. Let's go right away into our market. Ooh, here we go. All right, so I have a different time frame today for a couple of crypto assets. Bitcoin, we're looking at 4 hours, Defi, and shitcoin. And I think it's important to see that there is, as we are reporting already, and I think Alessio is totally on it, there is a little bit of a change of behavior in the last, 8 hours or so. So let's just dive into this. So here's the whole trading range that Bitcoin is having. And the whole idea here, structurally, that we're trying to solve is this a sign of strength or is this some kind of upthrust? And there are different type of upthrust. You could have an upthrust as a distributional element, structural element, or you could have an upthrust as an accumulation type of element, and we usually would call this upthrust action. So for now, I'm going to kind of question this, what kind of upthrust this is, and whether this is an upthrust at all. I'm still thinking that this is phase A, just with the very clearly defined change of behavior, climactic action after the preliminary supply, secondary test, attempt to retest the buy-in climax, and then we go into phase B. So phase B usually have two parts to it. The first one is somewhat volatile and very similar to phase A. So I would say that this whole portion here is our part one of phase B. And then as we go into this rally, we're probably still experiencing some kind of upthrust in phase B. As I mentioned yesterday in the market update, I would be expecting a gradual comeback into this area, specifically into the area of this bar right here. I mean, this should have been violated. And right now we're seeing how this bar right here is occupying a lot of space of the last commitment to the upside. So that's a short-term weakness. And that's on the background of the increased supply signature, where we saw supply increase initially on Elon Musk announcement, and there was a continuation on the next bar with the momentum. But then, that momentum fades. Nobody is buying there at that level, and that gives up um, some of the profits. Also, think in terms of the behavioral market analysis. Why are we seeing some supply here? Well, some people saw that from this high, there were some attempts to push the price down. So, in their opinion, they want to get out earlier, and they want to profit take uh, rather than just wait for a much more substantial decline. So that's why I think that maybe kind of like this gradual grinding down into the body of this bar. So I would be thinking like 40,000, could be our target here. In the most bullish case scenario, we would be, bouncing off 44, which is above one half of this big bar right here. So again, this bar is the most important bar right now, so let's just watch the price action around that. Okay, let's go to DeFi. And it's been in the pretty steady uptrend. You can't complain about this at all. Look at the trend lines. Everything is so clearly defined. There is really nothing that, you would be thinking like, oh, what's going on there? I don't understand this. Everything is contained within the uptrend. There are certain stages of this uptrend. So I would say like stage one, then stage two, stage three, and now we're in stage four. And as with stage two, I think we are in a consolidation right now. We clearly had a change of behavior bar, which is basically different type of behavior on the increased supply signature and also on the increased result. So the downward result is increasing. And that suggests that we are in this type of trading range. And whatever is confined within the uptrend, this is where consolidation might happen. So something like this. So this would be the biggest question for me. Would we stay here as a reaccumulation pattern as at the stage number 2 of this uptrend, or would we actually produce more weakness? So that's the thing to look at here. So far, I don't see any distributional type of patterns, even though supply has come here. It was quickly observed. The test was a lower low, but still with the demand tail and then ability of the rally to actually overcome the high of the climactic action. So very interesting. And kind of reminds me a little bit of price action of what we've had in stage number 2 here. Buy and climax, first leg down, then we're going into the up thrust action. So is it possible to have another low low? Yeah, it could be. Although with this low low, probably a higher low is more possible. Okay, let's go to shitcoin. And also, you know, nothing really that interesting, as you know, some of your trades are winding down, and you know you should be taking some profits, you know, around this area as the price action is climactic. After what we've had a big accumulation range, we had a sign of strength, we had a backing up action trading range, which was really great. Then we overcame the high here, and then we went into the ascending triangle type of reaccumulation. So also different stages: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6. So here we are accelerating. So it's whenever we are accelerate, that's when we start taking some profits. Doesn't really mean that we are done with the whole move. Alessio will have to give us some kind of PNF targets on shitcoin. I think we have those. But obviously, this type of bar identifies not only supply coming in, supply has come in here on this bar as well. But look at the result of these two bars. You would always be comparing kind of like the same areas of the trading range. So we could do even this, right? So 1, 2, and 3. What do you see here with with this bar? It's the biggest bar so far. So that suggests that there is more synchronicity between the expansion of the downward result and also with the downward effort. So both are expanding, and that suggests some weakness, some short-term bearishness. And that's what we're seeing kind of like on the intraday structure. So what do we expect? Some kind of trading range, a little bit more than this, just because uh, the whatever supply is coming in, it's actually moving the price easier. And by the way, supply has come in right here as well on the way up. So hidden supply on the way up. So I would be expecting some kind of trading structure, probably also down slope and something like this. And then we will have to judge the character of that. We never predict. So it was very interesting. Yesterday I was discussing this with students in the practicum class. We never predict. There is no reason to predict. I mean, like, you can go crazy just trying to predict something that's going to happen, and you have no control over this. So why would you torture emotionally yourself like this, right? So we only follow the market. The market is showing some ability to go down on lesser supply and or after supply has occurred, and we're just saying, okay, environment might change. Okay, so what else? Let's go to Ethereum. So not a very interesting price action right here, but with the trade that we had on the breakout here, we're still holding. There is no reason for us to do anything else. I think the aggressive stop losses are going to be somewhere around this bar right here. I would actually prefer to have the stop loss somewhere here, or more conservatively right here, if you're more longer term oriented trader. Um, Chainlink was nicely breaking out on the intraday yesterday, but did not have a lot of confirmation by the volume signature, and the price did not get out of the formation very cleanly. But today we're seeing maybe some elements of absorption. We'll still have to see that. Worst case scenario, if this bar is being violated right here, the low of this bar, then we would be concerned. So a close like this, as we've discussed yesterday, might produce a little bit larger trading range that we are in. That's a possibility. Okay, so now to some special assets. Ivy. We were talking about the climactic action. We've talked about how on this bar we have deterioration of the demand. There is an attempt to go up. I usually like those type of attempts that are upthrust looking probe attempts. So that's great. But it needs to be confirmed. It needs to be confirmed by the price actually going up. If the price will start going up into the area of the upthrust, that's when we could intraday trade that to the upside. And obviously, as we're seeing just the weakness throughout, the whole asset class, we should be prepared that we might have a continuation to the downside here. So right now, the environment as such is where you just basically should trade. You should not be thinking about very long-term investments, in at least in this eight, but more about managing your positions that are open right here and short-term swing trading those. Polkadot, still there, still kind of like holding. So until it holds, we're still bullish. If it breaks, then we would be thinking that this is our trading range right here. And then ADA, we talked yesterday about small caps and how they were still attractive. And look at this run that we've had. That's kind of two runs. Looking at ADA, again, the volume signature is really great. But the key of what we're seeing here is slight diminishing demand signature going forward. So those could be the first sign of demand deterioration. So we have to be careful. All right, and then let's go to our Discord group. First of all, guys, thank you so much. I was discussing this today with Alessio. We are very pleased. That's how the group is forming. There are quite a lot of educational questions, and there are different levels of those questions. So somebody is very advanced, somebody is very beginner, basic questions. So we were discussing today how we could help the beginners, especially, and still, answer the questions by more advanced traders on Wyckoff methodology. So I think we're going to experiment with some Fridays type of, small 3 to 5 minute concept videos on specific Wyckoff concepts. So hopefully we'll create during the next 6 months or so a library of those. So for those of you who's going to join the paid Discord, you're going to have the access to those. But for now, they're going to be free. So here's an example, and I really would like to commend G. James for participation, and there are quite a few people. And Denting also is very active. To be frank, I'm a little bit overwhelmed still with the number of messages that we have in the Discord group. So I'm trying just to pick maybe like one, concentrate on one. So keep those coming. I'm really grateful that Alessio, could do his work and really quickly answer those to you. So here's the question. Would you agree that this labeling of buying climax and automatic reaction, or would you see it at the top of the bottom of the blue range? I think it's correct because of the spread and volume that leads to the market buying climax. And I think Alessio has actually has an answer here. It could be labeled buying climax or until alternatively preliminary supply. So let's just look at this picture and let's analyze it a little bit. Okay, so we're looking at Bitcoin. Here's that Elon Musk announcement, and look how much volume it has. And what happens afterwards? When there is such an increase of the momentum, we're usually going to have a pretty good test, and you could actually create a trade out of this test, because if the test is successful, here is your very high probability point of entry with anticipation that the price will go up, but momentum will decrease. So momentum is increasing here, apologies, and momentum will decrease on that. And usually we would have like 2 pushes up after that, right? So everything comes in 3, so 3 pushes, 1, 2, and then 3. And I would say that's the whole move. And then this becomes a change of behavior to that move. So that would be my understanding, and that would be my thing here about the labeling. With that in mind, I probably would consider even labeling buying climax here, and then automatic reaction here and secondary test here. So here is our phase A. And then we're going into phase B. Alternatively, I don't see any problem labeling buying climax and automatic reaction here. It's just not necessarily a big change of behavior type of reaction. Usually change of behavior will be the largest reaction since the low of the rally. So that's my only concern here. But the price action is well contained here in the trading range. So I have no, reservation of doing it this way. That way, we're having phase A here, phase B test at the top. Could we possibly have this as a potential phase C with the sign of weakness in LPSY? Yeah, absolutely. So that type of labeling actually, makes a lot of sense. So one last thought on labeling, as I always tell my students in our WTC classes, and by the way, for those of you who are interested, check those out on our website, wyckoffanalytics.com. Labeling is overrated. Do not assume that labeling is helping you to define the bias. You will be incorrect more times than not. The key here is to understand what the structure is doing, what volume and price, how they're, that relationship, and define the bias first. And only after you define the bias, then you could go and label the whole thing. Having said this, of course, phase A is very easy to label, although this question brings us, to the idea maybe it's not that easy to label, but generally it is. Phase A and phase C and D are usually very easy. Having said this, you are making money by analyzing the bias, not by labeling. So do not make that mistake. With that, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much.